Documents that you will be completing. All of this information is there. If you would like to write this down, you're welcome to, but it's not necessary. I'll provide it on the Google document. So let's get started with fair. We use it for dates. Occupation, to describe characteristics, time, origin, and relation. So an example of the...
Okay. Let's just continue. We're going to have to click through.
So an example of the date in Spanish, hoy es el 2 de abril. Occupation. You guys are students. That is what occupies your time. Some of you also have other occupations or jobs. You can describe yourself as a worker for a store, something like that. But my two examples are ella es profesora, ellas son estudiantes. She is a teacher. They are students. All right, characteristics. We use this a lot in our second quarter. You are tall, you are short. El perro es bajo, el perro es alto. For time, my one example is son las 2:05. Remember, when the number is greater than 1, we're going to use son las. And then when the number is 1, like if it's 1 o'clock, we'll say es la 1. For origin, we have the question, ¿de dónde eres? I probably said that about 100 times.
Okay, so remember, characteristics are also personal characteristics. For example, yo soy simpático, I'm nice. Él es atlético, he is athletic. Or ellos son inteligentes, right? So characteristics.
At about 100 times the first quarter, ¿de dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres? Let's see if you guys can remember how to respond. So think about in your brain, how would you say, I am from? Oh.
So how do we answer de dónde eres? So take a look at the screen. Our hint is on the screen. We're using a form of the verb ser. Here is our chart, okay? So remember, you guys, I said last week, everything on the left is singular, everything on the right is plural. So, de donde eres? Eres is the to form. Where are you from? So we would say, I am from, and therefore our answer would be which one? Would it be A or B? You have the chart here up on the screen. Would it be A or B? How do we say I am from Cuba? Pop it in the chat for me. A or B? Very good, Marleisha. Anybody else? Jo Marion, Arshad, Malia, Brooklyn. How do we answer? Where are you from? De donde eres? We would say, I am from Cuba. Very good. Jo Marion. Yes, we're going to use B. We're going to say yo soy, right? Because if we look at our screen, it's about origin. Okay, so notice this word spells out doctor here. These are all the times we would use this form of the verb to be, right? Yo soy, tú eres, él es, usted es, nosotros somos, ustedes son, and ellos son. Okay, so if somebody says, ¿de dónde eres? Where are you from? You would say, yo soy de Georgia, right? Or whatever you wanted to say.
Ohio, or I am from Pickerington. Yo soy de Colombia. I could say yo soy de Ohio. And then finally, relation. So your relation between people, and also between a you and an object, or you and something else. So two examples that we should be familiar with is él es mi papá. He's my dad. Ellos son mis amigos. They are my friends. We can also use ser to describe, like saying something like, it is my pencil, or they are my chairs. Es mi lápiz. Son mis sillas. So not just the relation between two people, but also people and objects.
Okay. So remember, he and she and it. So remember that in Spanish, you guys, everything, every item every person, every idea, right? Because they're nouns, are either masculine or feminine. And so because it's an item like a chair, let's just say, if we want to say it, right, it's still ella. It's feminine, la sia, right? So if we want to say it, right, then we would say ella es. Okay. So remember that when we're talking about objects like a bicycle, here in the example, la bicicleta, it is blue, right? We're describing something that is permanent. Okay. The bike is blue. So it is blue. Ella es azul. And we're still talking about the bike. So el and ella, or ellos and ellas, can also be things, items. Okay. Also, you guys, let's take a look at this ser here. And remember that these things are like, tend to be permanent items. In other words, our characteristics, like the bike is blue, or yo soy alta, right? I am tall. Those are things that aren't really going to change, right? Where we come from, right? Soy de Cuba. I'm from Cuba. You know, that's not really going to change. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born. Or somebody is my brother, right? Bob es mi hermano, right? So that's not ever going to change. Bob is always going to be my brother. So anything that is like permanent, okay, is you're likely to use ser instead, okay?
So fill in the blank with the form and then take a guess as to which reason. Why did we use ser here? Yo blank de Ohio.
Okay, so in the chat, you guys, A, B, C, D, or E, or you can just type the word in. Which one, how would we say I am from Ohio or I am from Georgia? What's our answer going to be? Just pop it in the chat. Or we can unmute. Good, Marlecia, good. Malia, Joe Marion, muy bien. Arshad, how about you? Brooklyn? I'm from Ohio in this case. What would our answer be? Muy bien. So yo soy, right? Yo soy. I am from Ohio. Good job, you guys. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Yo soy de Ohio. And we did this because this is origin. Nosotros blank rubios.
Okay, so
Rubios.
we are blonde.
Somos rubios.
Oops, I didn't pause.
This would be a characteristic.
Yep.
Tu blank un doctor.
All right, so you are a doctor, right? You are a doctor. So what I use? Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, or son. Which form goes with tú? Do y'all remember? Is it soy, eres, es, somos, or son? Very good, Joe Marion. Ooh, you're on this. Malia, good job. Marlecia, good job. Okay, so yeah, if you said eres, you're absolutely right, right? Yo soy, tú eres. Good job.
This because this is origin. Nosotros blank rubios.
Yeah, so eres. Good job. I'm skipping around here. I apologize.
Oops. You know it's an occupation, but what form of the verb? Tu eres un doctor. Hoy blank el 3 de marzo.
Okay, so this is the
Hoy
date.
es el 3 de marzo. We wrote this a lot in the first.
Yeah, because here we want to say today is, right? And so our is either going to be s, because it's singular, or if it was plural, they are, then it would be son. Okay. So remember, I think we talked about last week too, how we work across the little chart to go from singular to plural. Okay, good job. So hoy es.
Oops. You know it's an occupation, but what ustedes?
All right, how about ustedes? Ustedes, so you all are my friends. You all are my friends. What would our answer be? Just pop it in the chat. So it's plural, ustedes, right? So it's either going to be, something on this right-hand column over here because it's plural, ustedes. Okay, Marlecia, good thinking. Anyone else? Yeah, that's why we do these. Absolutely. Anyone else? All right, well, let's think about it a second. Let's look at this little chart up here. And I said on the left-hand side are the singulars, right? So it's yo soy, tú eres, right? Usted es, él es, and ella es. So if I said, you guys, I don't know if this is going to let me try this. If I said usted es, because that's what it is, right? Usted es, él es, and ella es. Well, look, if I'm making this plural, it's no longer just usted, it's ustedes. Then I just go over here. So what's my plural going to be? See how that works? So there you go. Ustedes son, ellos son, and ellas son, right? So we just move across the chart. I can tell you, for me in this class, we are not going to use this one. This is the vosotros that they use in Spain. And since we live in the Americas, you guys, as long as we know that it exists, I'm cool with that, but we're not going to practice that one much, okay? So, yeah, muy bien. Good job, you guys. So, yay, you got it. So, son, okay, good job.
Ustedes, mis amigos. Ustedes son mis amigos. This would be relation. You all are my friends. Oops, this is a repeat, so I'll just skip that. Vosotros blank inteligentes. Vosotros blank inteligentes.
We'll skip that one because that's
Vosotros sois son, but take a second to figure out which one will be S. And
all right, so let's take a look at this one together, right? So this is telling time, and time has, in Spanish, singular and plural. We don't do that in English, right? We say it's 11 o'clock or it's 1 o'clock. We use it. We would never say in English, they are 11 o'clock, right? But that's how they do it in Spanish. Okay, they let the number determine what we use. So in this case, notice here it says las. That tells us it's plural because it's 3 in the afternoon. So if it's 3 in the afternoon, right, that means we have more than 1 hour. We have 3 horas. And so we're going to have to use son. So son las 3. Okay. But if it's 1 o'clock, because we only have 1 hour, una hora, right? Then we would say es. We have to go singular. Es la. And here's our other clue that it would be singular, this la. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, it's just not the way we do it, but as long as you can remember that you're always going to say son when we're talking about time, unless it's 1 o'clock. And then if it's 1 o'clock, you're going to be singular s. So for this case, son. Okay, I'm not going to sweat that one too much. And then because it's 1 o'clock, we only have 1 hour, it's going to be singular s.
son, but take a second to figure out which one will be S and which one will be son. Should be son las 3 de la tarde, es la 1 de la mañana. All right, we're moving on to estar. So this one is much shorter, and even some of these letters are similar in the acronym. We have position, location, action, condition, and emotion, and our forms are estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. So
okay. So let's take a look at this one. So this verb also means is or are, okay, estar. But we have to figure out when to use them, So when we're talking about if something like position, like if something is above or below, right, or next to, location, like where is the grocery store? Oh, it's on the corner, right? It is on the corner. That's the location of the building. Okay. Certain actions are condition and meaning, like, are we sad? Are we sick? Are we happy? Are we annoyed? Okay. And again, that kind of fits in with our emotion, being annoyed or something like that. The thing is, like I said with a star, that those things tend to be permanent. You know, where are you from? Well, if I'm born in Cuba, I'm born in Cuba. I can't change that, for example. Okay. When we use a star, if it's not a location, right, or a position, then it has to do with things that are temporary. I'm not always going to be angry. I'm not always going to be sad. I'm not always going to be happy or whatever. Okay. So things that are temporary. All right. Any questions there? And we'll, like I said, I'll try to move us through this real quickly.
So let's move on to position. Position and location are similar. So if you get this mixed up, it's not the end of the world. As long as you know that for these two, you are using a star, I will be okay with that. So two examples are, la planta está encima de la mesa. Los perros están al lado de la mesa.
Okay. So the plant is located basically on top of the table. The dogs are located right next to the table. Okay, so here we're showing position or location, however you want to look at it.
So la planta, los perros. This brings up an important topic because in this example, we are not talking about people. And up until this point, we've been talking about people. So when we are talking about things, the plant, the dogs, if the thing is singular, if it's just one thing, like the plant, we're going to use the third person singular form of the verb está. If the thing is plural, so like the dogs, we're going to use the third person plural form of the verb, the ellos, ustedes form. They. Just think of they, ellos, and then están.
Okay, so we're going to skip this one. We've got this.
All right, location, like I said, it's similar to position. Here are two examples. Nosotros estamos en Cuba. We are in Cuba. Está en casa.
Okay, so we have to be careful, right? So our location, where something or someone is located. So we are in Cuba or we are in Georgia. Okay, versus, where we come from, right? This is like our location, where we are, or she is in the house. Okay.
She is at home.
All right. So, ¿tú dónde estás? Clase, ¿tú dónde estás? Where are you? So literally, where are you located? Would you choose A or B? ¿Dónde estás? Where are you located, right? A or B? Brooklyn, what do you say? Malia, how about you? A or B? Where are you located, essentially, is the question. ¿Dónde estás? All right. So if take a look at the screen, you guys. If we're talking about location, we need to use a form of S star. So if you said B, you're correct. Yo estoy en la escuela, or in your case, yo estoy en mi casa, right? I'm in my house. Where are you? So when we talk about location, we have to use a star. Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
Action. We haven't learned this yet because it is actually a different verb tense. So we're just going to skip it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're going to move on here. Oops. Skip.
Condition. These are not emotions.
All right. Again, we're going to skip this video is a little off.
These are not emotions. These are just temporary conditions that you might experience. So my two examples are yo estoy enferma. Oh, pobre. Pobrecita. And then ellos están cansados. Enferma, cansados. Sick, tired. And then finally, with emotion, we're going to use estar. Our two examples are vosotros estáis emocionados.
Okay. So you guys are excited. Ustedes están emocionados. So again, being excited is a temporary feeling, all right, a temporary emotion. And so we would use estar here, okay? Están in this case.
And then tú estás nervioso, nervioso. All right, we're going to fill in the blank. I'll give you a second to think or pause the video if you would like. And then we're going to decide which is the reason why we used estar.
Okay, so we're practicing estar here. So what form goes with yo? What form goes with yo? Pop it in the chat, you guys. It's not soy, but very good, Marlacia. Anyone else? Very good, Jamarian. Muy bien. So if you said estoy, good, Arshad, you're absolutely right. So it says yo estoy en el parque, right? I am in the park. That's my location, right? That's my position or whatever. That's where I am. Estoy en el parque. Now, here's the funny thing. If we were to say here, yo soy, you know, it would, to a Spanish speaker or whatever, it would make absolutely no sense. They'd laugh at us, right? Because that's like what we are. You with me? That's what we are permanently, a park, right? So that's why this is important, because here we're saying a temporary location or temporary position. Yo estoy en el parque, right? I'm located in the park, okay?
Yo blank en el parque. I'm in the park.
Yeah.
Yo estoy en el parque. This would be your location. Ella blank enojada. Oof.
Okay. So again, temporary emotion, enojada, annoyed. So, but it's she. So we want to say she is annoyed. So which one would I use? You guys pop, you can write it out in the chat. You can unmute, or you can do A, B, C, D, or E, whichever you think. Very good, Malia. Don't worry about the accent mark, you guys. I know we can't make those in the chat. Brooklyn, what do you say? There you go. Good job. Good job, Arshad. Muy bien. So we would say, ella está enojada. So that's her emotion, right? Temporary. So that's why we use estar, right? Hopefully she's not permanently annoyed.
Ella está enojada. This would be her emotion. La silla blank a la derecha de la mesa. So here's the silla and there's the mesa. Remember it. It is to the right of the table. With it, we're either going to use this or that. Está or están. Because it is singular, however.
Okay. So remember, we're going to say la silla is feminine. So it'd be the same as ella, and it's singular. And again, we're talking about position, which is a temporary thing. The chair is to the right, sorry, of the table. I had a brain moment. Okay, so which one of these would we use? Estoy, estás, está, estamos, or están? We're talking about position here, or location, however you want to see it. Which one would we use? Very good. Anyone else? Yep. está because it's singular. So basically we're saying she is, right? The chair is because she's a girl. She's a feminine thing. Está.
However, we're going to say la silla está a la derecha de la mesa. This would be the position. If you were thinking location, I will accept that because they're very similar. All right, nosotros no blank enfermos. We are not sick. So,
all right, so which one would we use here? So no, remember nosotros has an S on it. That's our clue that it's plural. So we need to think about that right hand column. We are not sick. Which one would it be? Pop it in the chat or unmute. So Marion, what are you saying? Brooklyn, Leah, Arshad. Which one goes with nosotros? Very good, Jamarian. Very good, Marlacia. Very good, Malia. Yeah. So if it's nosotros is we, right? And therefore estamos. Because the plural of I, if it's yo estoy, the plural of I is we. Yeah. And so estamos. Muy bien. So we are not sick. So again, you guys, that would be our condition temporary. Yeah. So we would use a form of estar, not a form of ser. Okay. All right. Any questions? I'm going to stop it here. Can you give me in chat a 3, 2, 1? 3, I get it. 2, I get it, but I need to practice. 1, I have no clue. Tell me 3, 2, or 1. 3, I get it. 2, I get it, but I need to practice. And 1, I have no clue. 3, 2, or 1. Tell me in chat, you guys. Okay. All right. Good job. All right. So I'm going to give you all a quick little brain break while I get my next screen figured out here. Let's see what time it is. All righty. So, we talked about at the beginning of class, we talked about learning in context of a story, right? And so I'm going to change my background up. And you guys can see, I hope, give me a thumbs up. If y'all can see my background, and I have, thank you, Marlacia, and I have question words up here. Now, can y'all make out what they're saying? I tried to make them as big as I could. Can y'all see what they mean and what they are? See or no? Give me a thumbs up. Brooklyn can. Very good. All right, muy bien. So whenever we work on a story, and for Arshad and Jamarian who were with me last year, we didn't get to do any stories much last year. We will this year. I'm hoping they'll be short, but we'll get to do them. And so whenever we work on something like that, and we do some like Q&A, right? Some questions and answers, I will have this background up so that, it's kind of a cheat sheet for you guys, right? To help you understand the question that I'm asking. Okay. So I just want to make sure that y'all can see those. So when you see this background and I have different ones, but they all have the same questions, then that's should be a clue to you guys. Oh, okay. I need to pay attention because she's going to be asking me some questions in Spanish. Okay. So that's kind of what that's about. All right. So let's talk about what we mean about Q&A and why it's important and how we're going to do it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right. Let me get my computer's thinking. Okay. Oh, I should say this, you guys. So we have stormy weather here. If we get disconnected, remember what we need to do is just stay where you're at. I'll try to reconnect And if I can't reconnect, then you would go to Canvas and go to announcements, and then I'll type it in there what it is I'd like for you guys to do. So it's getting stormy again here. In case that happens, remember, hang tight until I can connect or reconnect. And if I can't reconnect, then you guys can check out the announcements in Canvas. Okay. All right. So can y'all see my screen? It says, what is Q and R, right? QAR. Y'all see that? Give me a thumbs up real quick, Joe Marion. Yeah, Malia. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, perfect. All right. So what is Q and R, right? So it's question and answer relationships, and there's multiple types of questions. Today we're just going to look at a question that we would kind of refer to, we call them like right there questions. Okay. And so get ready, because you guys are going to have to do some answering. Okay. So Q&R is a way of identifying questions by type so that you know how to look for an answer. Because when I ask you questions about whatever it is we're reading, right, you'll need to know how to look for an answer. Okay. There's 4 kinds of question types. One is right there in the text, and that's the one we're going to look at today. Another kind is think about the question and search for the answer. So it's maybe a little less obvious, but still obvious. Okay. And then this other kind is the they call it author and me, and then on my own, where the answer is not in the text. It's like you have to think about what we've read and come up with an answer. Okay. And so for some of those, there's not even going to be a right or wrong answer, right? You guys, it's more going to be about like, what do you think is going to happen next? How do you think they might be feeling, or something like that. It depends on the vocab that we have to practice. Okay. So, we're going to start out easy with asking questions where the answer is right there in the text. So there's a definite right answer and a definite wrong answer. Okay. Versus these types of questions where it's not in the text necessarily, that you are creating a relationship or something you are making a supposition based on what you've read. Okay. So for today, we're just going to look at these like right there questions. Okay. So what is a right there question? The answer is found in the text, right? So if the story said Bobby is tall, and I were to say to you, what is Bobby like? Then you could just look at the text and go, Bobby is tall. Okay, because it's right there in front of you. So it's a right there kind of question. Okay. You could actually point to something and say, oh, it's right there in the sentence, right? He is tall, for example. There's no opinion. In other words, there's a definite right answer and a definite wrong answer. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this together. So I'm going to give you guys a minute, please, and just read what you see on the screen. If it's difficult for you to see, then tell me in chat. I can try to enlarge it. But I'm going to give you a minute. Arshad, make sure you're reading. What's in purple? What's in purple? Sometimes it's helpful to read out loud. You guys are muted. You can read it to yourself out loud. You don't have to know what every word means. Okay. Have you had a chance to read it? Give me a thumbs up if you've had a chance to read it. Yeah. Okay. So follow along with me, Arshad. I need you to listen. Joe Marion, follow along with me, you guys. I'm going to read through it. A las 6 de la mañana, Bob corre con su perro. Después de las clases, Bob juega al fútbol. Antes de dormir, Bob camina por 20 minutos. Now, do I expect you to know every word here? No. If you do, yay, that's wonderful. But remember, you guys, we got those cognates, those words that look like something in English, maybe. Okay, that can help us try to figure some things out. So, Brooklyn, can you unmute, por favor, and tell me what's a word you think is a cognate, one that you recognize that reminds us of English? Do you see one?
Perro, I think.
Okay. Do you know what that word means?
Dog.
Dog. Okay. So I'm happy that you know what it means. It's not a cognate though. Okay, because doesn't look like the English word dog. Okay, but you're right. Perro is dog. Okay. Marlecia, how about you? Is there a word here that looks like an English word? It's a cognate.
Classes.
Clases. Muy bien. So clases we know are classes. Okay, so something about school, right? So we have dog, we have school. Anyone else? Malia, can you find us a cognate we haven't mentioned yet? One that looks like English? Good, Malia. Minutos, right? Minutes down here, minutes. Okay, so we got that. Jamarian, muy bien. Football, right? Football, but it's not American football, right? That's going to be soccer. Is there another word that maybe we could make some kind of connection to English? I see maybe one more that we can use, maybe make a connection to English. Do y'all see another one? Yay, Marlecia, good job. Dormir, right? So think about, right, Brooklyn, minutos was one. Dormir is like a dormitory, like you go to college and you live in a dorm, right? And what do you do in a dorm? You sleep there, okay? Or sometimes we talk about things going dormant, right? They go to sleep. So dormir has something to do with sleeping, okay? All right. So, a las 6 de la mañana. How about seis? Do we know this word, you guys? This is our Spanish word. Let's see what words we know. We know perro, dog. Seis is 6. Any other words we know? Juega al fútbol. Do we know anything here besides football, besides soccer? Juega. Play. Very good. And we can figure that one out by context. If we know football is soccer, so we can say Bob plays soccer, right? And we know this was sleep. Any other words we might recognize here? Bob camina por 20 minutos. This was minutes. Yeah, 20 is 20. So Bob does something for 20 minutes. Very good. Okay. All right. So let's say we have no idea what any of the rest of this means. A las 6 de la mañana, Bob corre con su perro. So my first question to you, ¿cuándo corre Bob? So behind me is your cheat sheet. What does the word cuando mean? Do y'all see it up here? Cuando behind me, Arshad, Jamarian? When, right? When. So the question is, yeah, that's okay, because it sounds the same, Marlecia. Cuánto with the T is quantity. Yeah, if that helps you remember, like quantity has a T in it. And so cuánto in Spanish also has a T. Okay. So this is cuando with the D, so when. So remember, we're looking at questions where we can point to the answer in what we've read. Okay, so cuando corre Bob? When does Bob something corre? Can we find corre in our first sentence here? So I know that corre, so it must have something to do, if you guys can see my screen, it must have something to do with that. Okay, make this white. Okay, because my question is corre, and my thing is when. Well, if I know this is dog, that's not going to help me answer my when. Are y'all with me? So where am I going to find the answer to this? When does Bob corre? When does Bob do this action? Can you pick it out in the rest of the sentence here? What's your guesses? Yay, very good, Malia. Anyone else? Joe Marion? Brooklyn? Marlecia, what's your guess? Remember, our chat is our scrap paper, y'all. Make your mistakes in the scrap paper, in the chat box. Well, if our question is when, yes. Yes, but we don't even have to know what it's saying to us necessarily, right, you guys? If our question is when, and we recognize that 6 is a number. A las 6 de la mañana. So when does Bob do this action? Well, according to what I know, Bob does this action a las 6 de la mañana. Because I can recognize 6, and maybe I've heard the word mañana before, right? Okay, so right there, kinds of questions, right? These kinds of questions are questions where you can, there's a definite answer, a definite right or wrong answer, and we're going to find it in what we're reading. Like we can point to it. Okay. All right, I'm going to erase. Let's try another one. Okay. So when does Bob run? At 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay. All right. ¿Qué deporte juega Bob? All right. ¿Qué deporte juega Bob? So let's think about this. First of all, ¿qué? So behind me, up here, you guys, behind me in our cheat sheet, we have what? What? So let's pretend I don't know what deporte is. I don't know that word. But I need to find the answer in my reading. So I can recognize juega right here. Okay. And I know that football looks familiar to me. It's obviously a sport. We said soccer. And so context says Bob juega al fútbol. He must be playing soccer, right? Juega, playing. So if our question is what? How do I answer the question? What is Bob playing, you guys? Where would I point to the answer? What's the answer? Football, right? So Bob juega al fútbol, right? So my answer to the question is right here. Bob juega al fútbol. Bob plays soccer. Okay. Everybody see what we're doing here? Give me a thumbs up. Yes. Okay. It's all just practice training, if you will, right? For when we do this for real. Okay. This one's a little trickier. Notice that they get a little more difficult. They're going to start easy and then they're going to get a little more difficult. Por cuánto tiempo camina Bob? Now, here's what I'm going to say. Remember, in our resource library, in our modules, you have a visual of all of these question words, right? and you have access to them at any time. So remember that resource library is our to-go place, is where we go, right? Okay, so let me check what time it is here. All right, muy bien. So let's do this. ¿Por cuánto tiempo camina Bob? Okay, well, if I look here, cuánto, looking at my background, you guys, what does cuánto mean with the T, just like we talked about? Like quantity, right? So what is cuánto? Up here, you guys, how much or how many? Very good. So how much tiempo? Time. Time. Okay. ¿Por cuánto tiempo camina Bob? Camina Bob. So how am I going to find this answer if I don't know what the question is asking me exactly? Well, I'm going to find a word that I can help me narrow it down. Camina. So right here. Okay, camina. So I know I got to get my answer out of this sentence here. And this is how much time. Well, I've already identified this word, minutos. So what would the answer be for our question, you guys? Very good, Malia. ¿Por cuánto tiempo camina Bob? Anyone else? What would be the answer to our question? How much time, right, does Bob do this action? Camina. Very good. So, 20 minutos. Por 20 minutos. Bob camina, that's his action, por 20 minutos, right? We see our sentence right here. So our right there kinds of questions are, we can point to it, right? We can find the answer and we're not guessing about his thoughts or his actions or his emotions or anything. We're not guessing about anything. It's going to be right there in front of us. Okay. All right. Good job, you guys. Muy bien. Okay. One last one. ¿Con quién corre Bob? Now, I'm not going to help you with this one. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes and you pop in the answer when you think you got it in the chat. ¿Con quién corre Bob? I'm not going to give you any hints. Con quién. So you got to know what king means. Oops, I gave you a hint. Good, Malia. Anyone else? How are we going to figure this out? Con quién corre Bob? Arshad, I need you thinking over here, my friend. Close your game out or whatever it is you're doing. Con quién corre Bob? How are we going to figure out this answer? Pop it in the chat when you think you know what the answer might be. We have one person who's figured it out. Okay, so what would be the answer from the reading? Tell me what the answer would be. Marleisha, good job. Yes, Jomarian. So what would our answer be? Brooklyn, what do you say? Arshad, ¿con quién corre Bob? Yep. So what's our answer, Brooklyn? You're right. What's our answer? Okay, so let's take a look up here, you guys. If you said con su perro, you're absolutely right. So let's see, how did we come up with this? Well, we cheated and we looked behind me and we figured out that quién means who, right? Or on a different day, you would look in the resource library at your question words to help you. So with whom does Bob do this action? Corre. So I'm going to look in my reading. I see corre. So I know that it's got to come from this sentence right here. I've matched corre to corre. I know that who, and I also can match con. I have a con right here. So if I know that if it's who, right, and I see this con and I see corre. So my answer, Bob corre con su perro. Even if I don't know what any of it means, all I have to do is like match. Okay. On these questions where the answer is right there in the text, all we're doing is matching. Bob corre con su perro. Bob runs with his dog. Okay. All right. Any questions about that, clase? So that's going to give, that's meant to give you kind of a warm up, if you will, or an introduction into those right there kind of questions that you're going to hear a lot of in our readings. Okay. All right, you guys did a great job today. It's time, right? Nos vemos miércoles. Next class, we'll do a little paragraph and we'll work through it together like we just did, okay? But on a real story, okay? As a review. Okay, adios. Have a great day. Nos vemos miércoles. Adios, clase. Have a good one. Arshad, I need you with me, okay? Not on your other monitor.